The following program contains material which may be considered adult in nature. Discretion should be used.
This is Ninja Attack. They're gonna punch you in the fucking face!
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. You wanna mess with me. Well, I'm a cavalry monster.
Welcome to the Metalhead Asia Podcast. This is the Thrashmaster General Phil, and with me is Private First Thrash Josh. Say hello, Josh.
Hello.
On today's episode, we got some Ninja Attack. We are talking about genres. We got Killing Field, and we got Bloodstone from Singapore, as well as some various interviews. Hang on, we'll be right back.
Let's go.
Smash your face.
So what's the deal with your band? How would you describe Ninja Attack?
Yeah, Ninja Attack's kind of in this gray area. You know, we all come from different walks of life here. You know, we got Hans, the singer. He's a Detroit hardcore guy. French Clement is just, he's a very versatile musician. He's got a lot of core thrash metals. He's a younger guy. He's got a lot more influences from, you know, a lot of metal, you know, even European stuff. And then you got myself, who's practically old school 80s thrash, but I like to listen to everything. So I can't put my finger on what type of genre it is, you know, so I don't know. We're kind of genreless, you know, in this big genre metal world.
Genres. What's up with genres?
Exactly.
Are we over genres? Let's categorize ourselves now, you know?
Well, you know, Sam Dunn, you know, he's a brilliant documentary guy that, you know, went in and took and broke down a lot of how metal has evolved to what it is today, has practically created classifications, and it's not him that's done it. It's the music industry. It's evolved this way, you know, and you know, from my experience, it started from hair metal, you know, but I mean, it seeds all the way back to Sabbath, even before Sabbath, into like even old blues, and you know how music has evolved to what it is now, and now there's so many different types of genres out on the market: nu metal, deathcore, metalcore, death, hair metal, Swedish extreme metal, Viking metal, goth metal, black metal, grindcore,
Cracker metal.
cracker metal. There you go.
That's a new one, right?
There's Dominic for you.
No, but yeah, you're right. It's so funny, like all these different categories, and they're like, oh, you got this metal and that, and then you listen to a band, you're like, oh, well, how are we gonna sell this band? Are they a death band? Are they a hardcore band? Are they a grind? I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. What do you do with them?
yeah, exactly.
You know? Well, that was one of the things, you know, when I first started Ninja Attack with Hans and Keith, and, you know, we were asked, you know, well, what type of genre are you? I mean, it was something that was important. It's like we've gone to a place where we're genre specific, and the walls are up between the genres, and you can't look over the walls, and you make fun of the people on the other side of the walls, you know, and it's not like that. Metal is brotherhood, man. If you're a metalhead, you know, I see so many people that are pissed off at Metallica because they sold out, and they're pissed off at this band, and they don't like hair metal, and they don't like death, and you know, listen, man, it's metal, it's music.
Dude, sorry, being about Metallica, dude, you got to see Metallica open up for the Super Bowl. Hey, I mean, who in their right mind would think of metal, right? I mean, you look at years ago in the 70s, 80s metal, right? That you never think in a million years that would happen. Maybe in the 80s, but after the 90s, you know what I mean? Like, you would never think that it would hit that mainstream.
You're right, and that's actually a big thing for metal, I think. I've always been a Metallica fan, as you know, and, you know, to me, I like seeing Metallica being put out there in the front saying, you know, because we need, you know, those flag carriers for metal out there that keeps pushing us more and more. You know, Metallica has turned themselves into a corporate entity. They make so much money. Hell, the Black Album is still selling more every week then what new albums? I mean, it just eclipsed Megadeth's Dystopia album just last week, and
I heard
it's been
about
out
that,
for what 25 years.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Shit.
Yeah.
So it's tough to really kind of I mean, we look at these genres. And and we make fun of all these other bands, but to me, it's a necessity that we all move together. In it's hard to say I like this band and don't like. It's fine, you don't like a band, but you got to respect them. It's metal, I mean, at least somebody's trying. They're putting their blood, sweat, and tears into their music.
Well, sure, and a lot of people are like saying also these bands are like too much on the past. Bands like Iron Maiden are just playing their old hits over and over and over again.
Yeah,
living on the past, right?
Yeah.
But like if you think about that Metallica show, yeah, they did play some of their past, but they played some of their new stuff, some of their old stuff. It was a good mix of music. And I'll tell you what, to hear a song, Master of Puppets, a song like that before the Super Bowl at an event like that, I mean, that who would have thought?
You're exactly right. I mean, 20 years ago. Yeah, I remember when Metallica played One on the Grammys. It's the first time I really saw like live metal on TV, and that was incredible. I mean, I was, gosh, I was in my early 20s, but it gave me chills just knowing that it finally made it to a certain level, and now it's almost nothing to see bands like Megadeth or Slayer or Iron Maiden or Sabbath or whatever to be on TV. It's pretty common. Well, it's not common, but it's not as big as a shock as what it used to be back in the day.
Well, sure. I mean, we had Headbangers Ball, and that was the big thing in the 80s.
Yeah.
Right. And the glam bands, a lot of those had bursted through the walls, but like outside of that scene to the really hardcore metal, you didn't see it in the mainstream, and that was it was basically a wall break. A lot of people say, oh well, they didn't get to play the actual Super Bowl. Well, you know what, they played before, and they put on a big huge event.
Yeah,
people say, I mean,
and you hit on a very core point there. Is hair metal. I mean, it surprises me on how many people think hair metal is heavy metal, and to me that's like pop rock. I look at when Bret Michaels is singing "Every Rose Has Its Thorn" is not being the most opposite thing from metal you can possibly get, but I still respect it. I'm not a Poison fan, but I really am happy that they had that. They put that out there that for the audiences to absorb up and for them to appreciate. I think that is needed. It's just understanding where is the line, of saying what we need to do is stop classifying this stuff and accept it all.
At least it's music, dude. At least these bands get together and learn to play an instrument and get up and go. Nowadays, you get these pop rockers getting up. Everything's so contrived. It's
pre-recorded.
What's the
produced?
Well, the sound they use
samples.
No, there's a certain, anyway, yeah, these samples, but they emphasize their voices.
Oh, auto-tune.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking about it. Yeah, and that's what's so crazy. Like, people don't realize how the media has been contrived in such a way of music, in a way that's it's so bubblegum. Yeah. You listen to it, it's all so similar. Whereas other genres have broken through that and created their own little avenues. Whether it was punk rock, whether it was metal, whether it was reggae, whatever it was, they created their own individual stylistic music.
Yeah.
Whereas the whole corporate rock thing, why? And this is the whole thing. Why people like myself, people that are like music enthusiasts, whether it's whatever it is, it's real. The reason why we like it real is because it's not created just to sell records, and it's not created, or it's created organically. It's not chemical. It's not these corporate people coming together going, oh, we're gonna make money off this guy, little prissy boy that are dancing around.
Oh, wait a minute, Josh. Let's be honest here. They've been doing that shit for years since the Partridge Family.
I know for sure.
Corporations has been putting together their American Idol bullshit since since they knew they can make money off of a singer. They did it, and today it's no different than what it is. But the thing I don't like about it is that it makes it look so cheap and easy. You know,
Exactly.
it makes it look so fast and just, hey, I can sing, and all of a sudden I'm a millionaire. And you get these guys that I know that are thrash guys that they're grinding out their hours. They're working at fucking McDonald's trying to pay their bills, and they really are living thrash moments, you know, or their lives, you know, and those guys get no respect at all.
I'll tell you what, man. Anyone that wants to support music or that likes music, listen. Get into an underground scene where you are, man. Find out what little bands. You may be in the Hoboken town, wherever, man. Go find out about those little bands that are playing. Because guess what? You will find out. You will find a love that you never think. A support, a scene, and it's more. You're watching this bubblegum crap on TV. These people want nothing to do with you, man. You know, I hate to say it, but that's the truth. You know, and that's the thing. And people fall in love with these images on the TV, and it's all fake. Yeah. You know, I've been to studios. I've seen it. It's fake. It's auto-tuned, man.
Well, let's get back to the genre stuff real quick. You know,
so I just asked my anti-corporate rock statement for the day. My platform.
So the current.
No, look. Personally, I want to say, like, I anyone that's out there, if I don't agree with your musical taste, that's fine. Just make it real. If it's country and western, man, make it real. That's all I say. That's all right. And let's get back to metal.
Yeah, that's what we're here for, Josh, is metal. But these genres, you know, it's like, you know, like I said earlier, it's a classification, and I think that a lot of people look at bands nowadays and want to know what style they are first. If, you know, before they even hear a song you play, they want to know what's your genre. And I think that's wrong, man. I think that's, you know, I think that's how we've become very, very closed-minded, I guess, in our thoughts. You know, we want to know, is it my type of music first and foremost before I even hear a note you sing? You know.
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree with that. And that's the thing. Why are we categorizing everything? Mm-hmm. You know. And well, the thing happened in punk rock, man, back in the day, and they're like, oh, this is this kind of music, and this is this kind of music, and that was what some of the great bands are just like. They came up with their own thing. You know, we're not going to be hardcore. You know, don't classify us. You know, that was never the punk thing to do, you know, to be. And the same thing in metal. So
well, that's one thing about Ninja Attack, you know, and keep going back to them, is that you know, when people asked us what type of genre we are, we couldn't tell, you know, and it on the alternate side, what it does is it puts us in a weird situation on how people can put us into a show. I mean, you can't put Ninja Attack with a bunch of death bands in because we're going to stick out like a sore thumb. And we've played shows with other, you know, metal acts, sure. And it's felt awkward, like we were like the black sheep of the well, I guess we're the white sheep of the black, you know, the black bands, you know. And to me, it's still something that's difficult for us to kind of, you know, classify. That's why we kind of do a lot of things on our own, you know. And you know, we associate ourselves with Awaken the Dreamer, the metalcore band here. We love what they're doing. They're kind of alienated here because there's not really a big metalcore scene. The punk guys, you know, like Low Fat, and you know, those guys coming up to Vientiane here in the next couple of months. We can associate with them because of, you know, Hans's hardcore element that he brings in, you know, the thrash element, you know, we can fit in with Dictator a little bit, you know, course, I mean, yeah. It fits, you know, just to too many different genres.
And exactly. And I think that you find your niche but it's good to have a little bit of difference, you know?
Sure.
It's good to have, that's where, like, it's interesting to see these shows. We see like a grind band with a punk band with, you know, with a band like Low Fat, which is a hardcore, yet they're kind of like cartoony sounding. I mean, I can't, you know, cartoony hardcore, basically. I mean, and that's kind of how I would explain them.
I always kind of tend to migrate or gravitate toward to those type of bands. You know, you look at like Faith No More. Faith No More had metal, but they had keyboards in it, and Mike Patton was such an extremely strange singer. You know, he brought punk and elements to. I mean, I can see Ninja Attack being a lot like Faith No More.
I was just talking to someone about a band yesterday, Mr. Bungle, man.
Oh yeah,
they were way back in the day. I mean, don't remember any of theirs, but like exactly. They mixed genres for sure.
Oh yeah.
And in the '90s, that was what's so interesting. That's kind of what happened during that time, and it was sort of like a mixture. A lot of these bands that were like Jane's Addiction, that were kind of nobody's got to be popular.
Yep.
So even though unfortunately, there was a big like, Nirvana came and just destroyed everything in the metal scene. A lot of people felt, but then a lot of other bands sort of formulated in a different way.
Sure.
And look, the Black, as much people as hate the Metallica Black album, it did expose people to Metallica that had never heard Metallica before, and that is something that people don't realize. They get so mixed up. Well, this is they're so, and this has got to be this kind of metal. Well, not everyone is into it, and they get exposed to it. And, okay, I like this song. I like the way it sounds. It's it's getting heavier. Okay, and then I get into something different and I learn about it.
Well, you even got to look at bands like, I know a lot of people don't really like them, but like Limp Bizkit, you look at Korn, I mean, these guys brought elements of rap into the new metal, and that, formed their own kind of classification there. And then you look at metalcore, and to me, when I hear metalcore and I hear like bands like Devil Driver, As I Lay Dying, you can hear elements of old original Linkin Park in it. And I think Linkin Park did a lot to kind of deviate away from that new metal to kind of form like what metalcore is nowadays. So, it's great to see how people influence their influences into music, start writing songs and start creating their own music. And all of a sudden you have a new genre that's, it's kind of propagated, but like I said, still that bothers me is the big walls we put between the genres, and how, we can say, I don't like this, but I like this. But I think that's also, respect,
sure.
Respect.
And then there's people that say, well, this isn't real metal, and that's not metal, If I can talk about Linkin Park, I saw them in a show with Cypress Hill and with Body Count and with Pennywise, and it was a smoke out show like in 2003, 2004. But those guys were just small, average guys starting a band, and they just exploded,
Yeah.
So whether or not people, they sold out, their music is this and that. Hey, you know what? They did the work, and they created the band, and they got signed. They did it the old way, man.
Yep.
They're not pop. People might say, they're just pop music. No, you may not like them or not, but you got to respect them for what they've done.
No, yeah.
And they're all cool guys, man.
No, they're huge, man. I think that they got, they're young guys. This is what surprises me. They've done so much for the music industry because of, maybe they were pioneers before their time, but they've really kind of changed a lot of how metal's evolved.
Also, Papa Roach.
Yeah.
Look at that guy. Okay, a lot of people think, he was pop. No, he came from like really no background, man, and he made it. And he is a cool, mellow guy. I mean, he's really a down to earth guy.
You're talking Jacoby the singer?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting you brought up, Papa Roach, because they kind of did with a cut my life into pieces. That's kind of like a pop metal type song, and they were kind of on that fringe between rock and metal. But have you heard their latest album? They've gone really gent into their music. They're one of those bands that's evolving with the times, and they're now playing, I believe, either playing a detuned guitar or they're playing 7-string guitars, but they've really gone to a progressive gent type sound. And this is something that, another thing that we talk about, you kind of brought it up earlier about how some of the old bands are living off their old sound. Iron Maiden has sound the same for the past 30-something, since the beginning. They've sound the same. But then you take bands that's evolved themselves. Metallica's reinvented themselves on numerous occasions. Even Megadeth is trying to go on pop metal, with their Risk stuff. Obviously they call it a risk because it's a risk,
Yeah.
Papa Roach is doing the same right now with what they're doing with gent, even though from what I understand, gent is kind of dying out a little bit, even though the prog and the gent and all that stuff has still got a big following of what's going on. So overall, there's you can either stay with your time, like what Iron Maiden and Sabbath and some of the bands have done, or you can continually evolve with all these different classifications or different genres, these influences, and try to reinvent yourself to a new different crowd every time. I'm not sure which is the better formula.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Which is the better, which is going to keep your fans happy. That's the thing.
Yeah.
What keeps your fans happy? Some people want to hear the old stuff more than the new stuff. Some people want to hear it a lot of people, they there we go, put them in the box. And they go, this is what Metallica sounds like. This is what Megadeth sounds like. And then they change their sound. They go, oh, that's not really what I like, because this is what I'm expecting out of that album.
You're right. Well, Metallica's put a new album together. And, as much as I thought Death Magnetic was a good throwback to their 80s stuff, it still kind of felt a little bit overproduced. And, and I'm really excited to hear what they're going to put out for the next album, if they stick more to their core, if they deviate to kind of see what new bands, if they put a little bit of a prog or a gent feel into what's going on. Even you look at bands like Dream Theater. Dream Theater stuck to a specific formula from day one. It's worked for them very, very well. Dream Theater is one of those bands that either you love them or you hate them. There's no middle ground for you. And that's probably what classifies as a band. I remember when Metallica came out with Load and Reload, and the first thing Lars was pumping up. It's like, well, we've kind of done it. We've made the money. We want to put some risk out there, try something new, see where we can go in different borders, and the Outlaw Torn, or Mama Said, country songs, that the country elements that James had brought in, into Metallica, it wasn't easily as welcomed. And most of us nowadays, and I think most of us, the true metalheads, go to Metallica and go, hey, it's from Kill 'Em All to Master of Puppets, or Kill 'Em All to Injustice for All. Barely, the Black Album, Beyond is practically, the true thrash 80s guys are like, not that we forget about, what Metallica's done from either the Black Album forward, and I'm guilty of that too. I can listen to Injustice for all day. It's definitely one of those albums that, that to me was like one of their last probably the last greatest album they put out,
But Enter Sandman was a good song on the Black Album.
Well, Enter Sandman spoke to everyone. It bridged that connection. It was right at the time where hair metal was dying out. Grunge was right there. I think it came out probably within a year or two of when Nevermind came out.
I think it was 90
and
92, around 90.
And I think the metal community was
91 or 92.
tired of the hair metal scene, the spandex, the teased hair, the neon, the fun, they wanted to go a little bit more dark and
disturbing.
Exactly. And even though Metallica was doing that already, they made a very produced, publicly recognized album that kind of hit on many different types of people, and it worked very well. I think is the culmination of many things happening at the right time, but then Metallica dropped off by doing Load and going a little bit too extreme. But then you look at bands like Pantera, who was right there, who came from an 80s hair metal before, Cowboys from Hell came out. They were the teased hair, the spandex, and they went from that to put on the flannels, crank up the distortion, do the double kick, and just grind out, good songs. And thank God for bands like Pantera, where Metallica went too risky. Pantera went with the core roots of metal, and they carried that flag up into the late 1990s, where more bands were coming back into focus. Slayer was coming back from a lot of the problems they were having with Dave Lombardo leaving and coming back, and going through different situations. And Anthrax went with a different singer for a while there, So it was a gray area, and that's why Pantera's rise to popularity was really paramount for how the metal industry is to what it is today, you know. So thank God for that. And plus, you know, if you listen to Pantera and you hear the Dimebag riffs, you know, the harmonics that he does, the fast riff playing, you know, that coupled with Vinnie Paul's double kick drum, you can't have a metal band nowadays unless you're playing aggressive kick drum. And
True, yeah.
to me, Lars was never that guy. You listen to metal back in the 80s, and there's some double kick stuff, but it was nothing like what Vinnie Paul put out there and what metal is nowadays with using the
yeah, like that's what that's a death metal, right? That's what's so big in that.
Oh yeah, and that and the blast beats. Death metal, man, they took what Vinnie Paul did and they amplified it,
man,
you know.
For sure, dude.
And
For sure.
You can't play death metal without having some just constant aggressive double kick from beginning to end with blast beat, dun 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 dun, you know. So, to me, there's a lot of genre-specific things that happen to help evolve to where we are nowadays. But to say that you like one band
Sure.
in another band out of a different genre that came from the same roots is confusing to me, you know. You know, they look at, you know, we're old guys now, man. Metallica is old, you know. Those guys are in their 50s, you know, and you know, we look at it as saying, God, Metallica back in the when they were playing Creeping Death, my God, that was revolutionary. Dude. How much does Creeping Death nowadays is influenced in so many different genres and so many different bands? It's like,
definitely,
you know, that's the point of how these genres have become so elitist between each one of them, but they all have the same roots.
Dude. But nowadays, just kind of changing, just one little topical idea is you think about now is if musically, it's amazing because you can just get online and you go, oh, I want to find out about this music, and you can find it like that, you know.
Yep.
And that's changed the whole scene too, because so many bands that would never get exposure now. It's so easy for them to get the exposure, you know, compared to back in the day.
Sure.
But interesting talking about, I remember the Monsters of Rock and those big tours back in like the you know, in the 80s, in that whole scene, and
well, you know, that was the Monsters of Rock kind of set the platform for what Ozfest was going to do.
Yeah.
To me, I actually was going to go to a Monsters of Rock concert back in the 80s. My dad wouldn't let me go. But on that bill was Dokken, Scorpions, Van Halen, Kingdom Come, and Metallica. This was back in like 1988. What a show that would have been, man. That would have been unbelievable. But now you look at like Ozfest, and this is what I always liked about Ozfest, was that they broke a lot of barriers within genre. When I've seen Ozfest 2 times, and they had bands like Tool, Limp Bizkit, Pantera. They've had Down. They've Slayer. They've hit all the different big bands out there. Seven Dust, Cold Chamber. You know, all these bands have gone out and played. But what they've done is they've taken all these genres and they've put them all onto the stage. You know, and it's like the diversity between one band to the other was so different that it was very entertaining. Oh,
sure. I went to an Ozfest as well when I was in LA, and I'll tell you one thing that's interesting too. I on the Oz documentary they're talking about this, and they take all the bands, they build them at different times.
Yeah.
So they all get equal. Like, okay, sometimes you're gonna go up in the morning.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're gonna go on this times. Sometimes you're gonna get the main stage.
Yep.
So the band, the time we went there, the band that we were friends with, Switched, which were a metalcore band, I guess you could say. That was back in like 2004. They're still around actually. Anyways, and they got to open up on the main stage.
Really?
So they would, So so sometimes the other bands would get to be there.
Nice.
Yeah. They're really cool guys, man. And
but you know, it's like, you know, like you said, you know, you kind of go to Ozfest and And this is me being naive. The first Ozfest I went to, I know Tool was playing. I got to research to find out which one I went to, but you go and you're thinking, you're just gonna be listening to standard metal bands all day, and
Sure.
then you come out and you got these rapcore bands. You got guys with masks on.
Yeah.
You got a Rammstein type band,
Sure.
or industrial. You got Nine Inch Nails, and it's just like what all I loved about Ozfest was the variety of the different metal acts. You hit all genres. It was a genre-less concert. It was a metal show, the way metal should be, And
I saw so many bands. It's funny though. If you start at the beginning of the day, by the end of the day, it's like you're just so burnt. You're like, before Ozzy gets on, you're like, I'm out.
Oh, you're right.
It's so long, man.
Yeah.
Because I remember getting there in the early day and walking around and watching bands. I remember I saw one band I specifically saw at that show, and I've seen it before. Was Hatebreed, which are like, and they're like hardcore, kind of mix of a punk rock with a metal edge to them,
Yeah.
Which that's what happened with like a lot of the hardcore scene.
Yep.
Added a lot more of those long riffs and
Yep.
the metal beats.
I think that I saw when Limp Bizkit was playing and they brought this huge white toilet out, and the band members walked out of the toilet and then started playing on stage. I thought I was like, what the fuck is this? That's kind of the coolest. And it's the first time I saw Seven Dust, and Seven Dust is one of my favorite bands. They got a black lead singer. He sings really soulful over metal music, and that's the first time I've heard that. And to me, just changed. I'm like, boy, this is not a standard metal show where everybody goes up and it sticks with just one type of genre. It is you're seeing real talent from all over the United States coming in, or wherever they're coming from, and you just don't know what you're going to expect from one time to another. So all right, we're going to take a quick break right now. We're going to let you listen to some Killing Fields, and we'll be back in just a second, okay?
We'll be right back.
That is Buddhist Worth by the Killing Fields. It's the interview time, Josh. Who do you have up?
Yo, I've got God Hates, a hardcore punk band from Bangkok. Let's hit it up.
Okay.
All right, this is JB with God Hates. Let me get some introductions.
Hi, I'm Vic.
James.
Oogie.
All right, man. So how long you guys been together now? And
4 months, yeah.
4 months, yeah.
all right, cool. What do you think about the punk rock metal scene? What do you think the combination of both scenes? Because I know there's a lot of it's kind of like here. It seems like there's a connection between the metal and the punk scene, or is there like a punk scene and a metal scene, or is it?
I think it's different.
Okay.
We never played any shows in the metal scene. I think it's not that mixed.
Okay, so it's separated a bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
A bit, yeah.
kind of. Yeah.
Except
Sometimes it could be like together. But
except like tonight, yeah. We had like some grind core bands and all that, like
that was
mixing
not like
together, but
proper metal bands.
that doesn't happen quite often.
So who are most of your fans? Expats, Thai people or?
Anything we mostly play for Thais.
Yeah, the best shows we played were for Thais.
Yeah.
So what are your influences?
Wow.
A lot.
A lot of things, a lot of different things.
Well, we don't know.
I would say we get like old school influences, like old school punk, old school hardcore, old school metal.
When it comes to writing, lyrics-wise, I guess my influences would be like current events and just in general the human condition, and then like structure-wise, I guess Bukowski and Langston Hughes would be my biggest influences.
Like we are all like big fans of bands like Bad Brains or
And Slayer.
Black Flag, and also Slayer, and also the Cramps and Meteors, and like we try to put like everything together.
Have you heard the Slayer album, the punk rock Slayer album?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Show me.
Awesome.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
Yes,
That was the
exactly.
best like.
I want to
punk
be
rock
your
cover
god.
album.
About the guitar, you start with another guitar player, his influence, and now we got not only one but two guitars with some.
Very
Indeed,
different
also-
influences, yes.
There are also guitarists. I am another guitarist than
Yeah,
Axel.
Alex used to play.
playing with me, and we got some more new influence coming down in the stuff. Like like you said, Victor. Me, I'm coming from metal. I know punk or hardcore, but mostly from some shows. I've been to many shows of punk and hardcore, but I don't have this culture. My culture is fucking death, thrash metal, and we just gonna find a way to mix this.
He's a metalhead.
Yeah, we're just gonna find a way to mix this all together.
So music-wise, it is a big mix, and lyrics-wise, we are talking about serious issues.
Yeah, one of our songs is about the monotony of working in a corporate atmosphere. Another one of our songs, Jihadi Voltron, is about the futility of waging endless war in the Middle East, because I believe it's just a fool's errand. Another song is about, Malathion. One of our songs, Malathion, is about, the name comes from this chemical that used to be sprayed in Southern California to kill fruit flies, but it was a chemical that, like many people believe, and I believe, that was pretty toxic because it would eat the paint off of cars. The relevant authorities would always advise people cover their cars, like when they're spraying the malathion, blah, blah, blah. So essentially that's corporate malfeasance, essentially. That song is about corporate malfeasance.
Right on.
So yeah,
We are spirits in the material world.
Yeah, exactly. Cool, man.
So yeah, serious subject matter, just trying to,
Cool.
not necessarily educate people, but just like, just talk about serious subjects. Yeah.
So those guys are a little bit politically charged over what's going on. It seems like they got a pretty good idea of what needs to be happen socially, and yeah, I guess that's a good way to be. Keep your wits about yourself. It helps, gives you material to write about. It makes your band have an identity. So, look what that did for Rage Against the Machine. So,
Exactly. It's a way to positively get out your aggression and your feelings about something. That's what it is, man.
Yeah. Instead of singing about breakups with your past girlfriend or something like that.
You're singing "Breaking the Law."
Yeah, exactly.
Judas Priest, man. Come on,
So, what are you currently listening to, Josh?
A lot of harder stuff, actually. Stuff like Municipal Waste, Violator, bands like that. A lot of thrash metal, I like a lot of I go through all my moments. I like old school stuff like Sabbath, of course. A mix of everything.
Sure.
I'm punk rock. I born and raised on punk rock, so I always go back to that as well. A lot of old school stuff. Adolescence, Black Flag, Bad Religion, Dead Kennedys, So those always on my phone. Now it's funny. I've created like this little MP3 thing on my phone. So I find a band, I just put it onto my phone.
Yeah.
So that's where I do. that and old school CDs. You know, I'm a CD guy, so and you know, listen to a lot of these bands. When people give me music, I'll put it on and listen to it. You know, and check it out. It's what I'm open to is something new, actually, which is cool. I'm open to
And that's kind of where I'm at too, and this is kind of the coolest thing about being in this podcast. I'm listening to like December and Dictator and Bright Persist Eyes and Low Fat. I'm listening to a lot more local stuff, more than what I'm on established. You know, if I do go back and listen to something, I'll listen to like some old Megadeth or old Metallica, or you know, I try to listen to things that I haven't listened to in a long time or something new and see what gives, you know, what stands out nowadays. And I think that's very important, you know?
Exactly. I think exactly what very important. And the thing is, like, the time when I listen to music mostly is in the mornings when I'm getting ready to go out, like, to start my day. And I like something just like hard and fast, like Low Fat. I've been putting on Dictator. Yeah. And putting on, you know, I'll put on some Bad Religion. Just something just like get me going in the morning, you know?
Yeah.
And that's, but yeah, I love all the different styles and learning, like, for me, it's not being elitist. Learning about someone new. Hey, you know, introduce me to something new, you know?
Well, even, you know, I mean, that's the coolest thing about being in Southeast Asia. It's an untapped region. You come here, I mean, you go back to America, and you may know some regional local metal acts, but for the most part, unless you're scouring YouTube and the internet, you're playing whatever the record company's promoting out there for you. You know, you're kind of, you know, guided by the record companies. And here, you don't have those big presences here, and you got a lot of bands that are fighting, you know, doing their own way of getting their name out there. And thank God for places like YouTube and Facebook that allows you to see what's happening, you know, just next door that you don't know what's going on. And I listen to Thai metal bands where the guy's he's singing in Thai. I have no idea what he's talking about, you know, but I still think the music is great, and I think they're really doing everything they can to, you know, create their own identity and image, you know?
Exactly. That's what it's about, creating your own identity image. And it's also so cool, like going home, you go through, I just go through the old bins, man, when I'm back in this, you know, to see what I can find, the old school stuff. But here I love it more because, like, I go to a little shop, Heaven and Hell shop, and I go and check out stuff. And, you know, and Em, who runs the shop, will just turn me on to stuff. Hey, you got to check out this band and that band. I'm like,
No, he's brilliant at it. He knows everybody in Southeast Asia, and it's great to have that resource available to you. I love going there and buying the Thai metal bands. You're like, check these guys out. And some of the stuff is 80s hair metal stuff, you know, and he does bring a lot of the foreign music that, you know, not foreign, but, you know, I mean, American music that's popular and gets it and promotes it over there too. So he does a good job, not only with, you know, I mean, I'm obviously being a store owner, but help promoting everything, every types of music, you know, and I think that's, you know, that's a really big important part to the development of metal in Southeast Asia. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a big thing. It's a development and helping promote the scene. You know, also having an avenue where other people can go, or people that live there can pick up their metal and find the stuff, because he gets everything, man. He's got records as well, and tapes. Tapes are getting really big, which is weird. Like,
I was wondering about that. I think last year at Metal Destruction, I saw a bunch of tapes sitting out, and I was like, it was kind of funny when my mom died. We had an auction, and I had all my tape sets sitting out there, and you had this big wooden racks that held like, I think, like maybe 40 or 60 tapes, and I had all the Metallica and Justice for All, you know, Master of Puppets, Megadeth, you know, Anthrax. I had this masterful tape collection, and by then I had it all on CD or on MP3 format, and I was like, this is all garbage to me. And they sold it in the auction, and I was actually a little heartbroken because they sold the entire tape collection for $1.
What?
Yeah, $1, man.
Oh, no way.
I spent so much money buying these tapes, and, you know, however I got all these tapes, you know, I had a mint of them sitting there, and I know, like, I had 2 Injustice for All because I burned through that tape 2 times. I burned through it so that there was no paint or deciphering on the tape itself. You know, so I had all these stacks of tapes here, and I was like, I don't know what I'd do with them if I took them. You know, I was like, I'd take them, I'd probably end up throwing them away anyways, because you don't know what they're doing to do with them. And lo and behold, now there's a market returning for tapes, and I don't even know if you can even buy a tape player anymore. Where do you buy a tape player?
Yeah, well, it's like records, right? I had this huge thing of records, man.
Yeah.
And my friend ended up with them, and he contacted me when I moved to Asia. He's like, dude, I have your records. They're like sitting here. Because what am I gonna take records with me anywhere?
Exactly.
Even if I'm moving like to another, another city or another part of the country, right? Like California, I'm moving from the north to the south, something like that. Records? Have you tried, hauling records around?
Yeah.
They're a weight, man. I mean, those were not coming overseas. So
you're right.
I love CDs because they're just so portable, man.
Yeah. Well, MP3s even, you
MP3s.
got a hard drive with 1,000 songs on it, or your iPhone or whatever. But I don't know if this tape thing's gonna last. But a tape you can't really kind of put in a frame and hammer to a wall.
Well, the reason tapes were so popular is because they were portable. And we
Yeah.
have remember the old Walkmans, man.
Yeah.
Stick in the Walkman. And also, I remember I used to make mixtapes. To take all this crazy music and you make your own mixtape.
Yeah.
That was so cool. But yeah, man, the thing with the records, I mean, it's something about going and that was something about back in the day when you go to the shop and you buy that record and you're like, oh, you open it up, you've got the sleeve and you've got all the artwork. And,
Yeah.
and it's nothing like it, and the CDs are cool, but it's still, and everyone has said that, so many musicians have talked about that. They said they just missed that day of the records and of.
Do you remember, and I don't know where you're at, but I remember when Metallica's Black Album dropped. Do you remember that? I went to a small town in Findlay, Ohio when that album came out, and it wasn't that big, for a small town. Maybe 10 or 15 people were there, but, I really remember it going, it's like, all right, and I bought the tape and the CD. I think it was right at that time where the transition was happening between tape to CD. And I didn't have a CD player, but I remember buying both just because I said, when I get a future CD player, I'll have the Metallica CD already there.
Well, my roommate at the time was a full-on metalhead, man. The full-on hair and he, so yeah, when he went out, and I remember him buying the tape, the Metallica tape.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't remember if he was that into it. It was so funny because he was like the Iron Maiden and like he was really like King Diamond, like really hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
That I was getting exposed to, which was cool. But it's funny. It's like, and for the metalheads, they're like, oh, this is not, like we're talking genres. Like some people are like, oh, what is this? This isn't Metallica,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think it was a little bit different because I think we heard Enter Sandman. From my perspective, Metallica the Black Album was great when it first came out. But the day it ruined it was when like one of my niece or cousins was singing Sad But True, or one of my brother's kids was singing Sad But True or something like that. And I was like, yep, that ruined that album, and it just, it was cool to a point, but when it got too popular, then it just kind of started going, man.
But would you rather you be singing that than singing Justin Bieber songs or like Britney Spears or like bubblegum crap? You know what I mean? Like,
you're exactly right.
That's the thing. I mean, at least people get exposed. Okay,
sure.
We say, oh, they sold out, man. Like everyone's like, you're a sellout.
You're exactly right.
Like, you gotta make money, and you got at least you're staying real with the fans. That's the thing. They've always stayed real. And those guys are, James Hetfield is so cool with the fans, man.
Oh yeah.
You see stuff on his posts, and he signs people's, guitars and all kinds of stuff. And that's what's so cool. I see posts of people that hanging out with the band and getting photos with them and stuff, and that's cool. And they're so I've been reading these books about Lemmy and about Tony Iommi and all this stuff, and there's so much connection. Lars had so much connection to these guys, like hanging out backstage. He was a huge Motorhead fan, and he'd go to the shows and hang out, and before Metallica started. So it's interesting to see that.
So that wraps it up for this episode of the Metalhead Asia Podcast. Check us out on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and check out our YouTube channel. Thank you to the Killing Fields, thank you to God Hates, thank you to Ninja Attack, and thank you to Bloodstone. I'm the Thrashmaster General Phil, and with me is
Private First Thrash Josh. Keep it metal and keep it rockin'.
All right, here's some Bloodstone for you. See ya.